In this episode of UpTech Report, I interview Ariel Assaraf, the co-founder and CEO of Coralogix, a company that uses AI and machine learning technology to help developers analyze millions of log entries to identify the most important ones for faster troubleshooting, finding the needle in the haystack. Ariel discusses solutions to the particular challenges companies face when developing products, where companies should focus their attention when scaling their operations, and how stepping away from the computer and engaging in face-to-face interaction can help your business.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ariel. I'm excited to learn more about Coralogix and appreciate you joining us from Tel Aviv and finding out the interesting problem that you're solving in your industry. So first off, what year did you start?
We started a company around middle of 2014 and actually founded Coralogix with our initial team at about the end of 2014. I think it was over November.
Got it. And from your focus from the beginning, I'm curious actually if it shifted at all, but what's the industry that you serve and the segment that you really focus on?
So we basically focus on DevOps-oriented companies, specifically SaaS or internet companies, around 200 to 1,000 people.
And we were talking about this before. You focus on this strictly because you actually came from this. You understood the pain point that they were already feeling. What's the pain that you're solving with your product?
Yeah, so actually the idea came to my mind when I was at Variant. So we ran a quick research in Variant and found out how much time it takes to actually isolate, solve a problem, deliver something to production, and then monitor on it. And we figured out that this can be really shortened using the right tools and the right capabilities. This is when me and a friend from Variant, he was the head of innovation back then, partnered and started a company. A few months later, we joined an accelerator, actually the first accelerator in Israel, called The Junction. And then we raised our initial funds and started the company. And the entire goal of the company was to help companies solve and deliver production fixes faster. So whenever you have a production issue, the most important thing is what you call mean time to detect and mean time to resolve. These are key parameters measured by any company doing monitoring on their production. So you want to shorten both of them, and also helping companies creating a faster delivery pipeline so they can release more fixes and also increase the pace of their product development.
So there's so many logs that can be created, and trying to sift through that can take so much time. So your whole thing is to be able to speed up that time, find the issue, and solve it faster. Did I get that right?
Yes, so that's two things. Be able to sift through the data quickly, understand the data quickly, solve production problems by understanding the data real fast. That's whatever's related to mean time to resolve. But it also takes time to detect there's an issue. So a lot of the logging tools in the past were focused on actually, giving you the right way to search, visualize, alert. But then everything proactive came from other systems, and then you use log data as a post-mortem tool. So you have a problem. Either you got that from an external tool or one of your customers complained, and then you use log data to isolate the problem. And we figured out work on both angles, and this is why we created a bunch of capabilities around anomaly detection. So we actually separate Coralogix tools into two. The first one is identifying problems automatically, whether it's broken flows, trends of errors, bad API response trends, abnormal behaviors, and then resolving problems faster, whether it's version context, data clustering, searching, visualizing, and other tools that help companies find a needle in the haystack is very cliche, but basically once you have a problem, how do we solve that problem faster?
How many customers do you currently have using your platform?
Just a bit over 2,000 companies today worldwide, spread from India, Singapore, Europe, of course, Israel, and the US, obviously. So we have quite a
nice
few with
diversity.
us. Some huge enterprises and all the way down to small dev shops.
And as far as then the pricing, the way it goes, what does that look like? And does it make sense for every type of size as well of company to utilize what you have?
Yeah, our philosophy is that we only give great products to our customers. So we don't want to do tiers that are based on features or based on capabilities. And then if you're a small dev shops, if you're a small startup, you're stuck basically with a tool that is very limited. So what we do is we price based on two parameters, which are how much data you ingest per day and how long you want to retain your data. That's the only two parameters that you need to care about, and all features are included in all packages, unlimited users. So basically, even if you're a small, tiny company, 4 or 5 developers, you get the exact same product as a huge enterprise, only you are limited in your data, but you don't generate that data anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Got it. That's awesome. Now, you kind of mentioned earlier on that you have tried tools early on before you started your company, and there's things out there. So what makes yours different? Just describe me a bit more about your IP, and do you use AI or ML in your stuff?
Yeah. So the core of the company, unlike a lot of other companies in the market, so there are a lot of companies. To say that we're the only one doing machine learning will not be accurate, but there are a lot of companies that started as platforms for searching, visualizing, alerting, basically data analytics tools. And then they started adding capabilities for anomaly detection. We came the other way around. We started as an anomaly detection platform. We integrated into different tools and then created anomalies on top of them. That was the initial idea of Coralogix, and this is what we focused on. And then actually we switched strategies because we figured that companies are really suffering also from the level of user experience they're getting with other tools. So even when they do get anomalies from Coralogix, their ability to do the basic stuff like search, visualize is limited, and it's not very pleasant to do that in old school tools. So this is where we decided to create a whole platform from scratch. And that platform incorporates everything from data collection, searching, visualizing, alerting, APIs, and we took the best algorithms that we've had that had the most success with customers and implemented them into the entire platform.
Gotcha. So it's kind of the way you started your approach of anomaly detection that already kind of gave you a different spin, a look at it, but then making sure it is inclusive of all the other tools that it would be needed in being able to identify and solve it.
We built the pipeline in a machine learning orientation, the way we break down data, the way we look at different entries, the way we ingest the data. So if you think about Coralogix, it's a bunch of microservices running on the data pipeline, and the data ingestion into basically the data storage where you query the data and all is just one microservice out of about 11 or 12. And it's related to the old school type of logging. Everything else is different capabilities that we've developed along the way.
Gotcha. So from where you are now and also looking forward, what kind of partnerships or integrations do you have that kind of then make even easier your product or makes more accessible?
Yeah. So there are two types actually that are main ones. There are a bunch of partnerships and small integrations that we've created with a lot of tools. So, collecting data using our packages for different coding languages or common open source like Logstash or FluentD or FileBeat. We have an Akamai integration and so on. But the two main partnerships that we look at, the first one being Heroku. Heroku has been great for Coralogix. We have an add-on there. We were named add-on of the month for 2 times in the first year in the marketplace by the Heroku community. We have about 400 customers coming from there and getting great traction. And the second one is the AWS marketplace. So Coralogix is the premier AWS partner. We ran through the entire process of getting well architected review and competency with AWS and all. And now we're a part of the marketplace. And then every company that doesn't want to go through the procurement from scratch and they want to just pay Coralogix as part of their cloud bill are able to do so on a standard agreement that was created by AWS. So these are the two new channels that we have right now.
How long have you had that integration or the AWS partnership status?
AWS is actually relatively new. I think it's like 3 months.
Okay.
We already have very big enterprises using it.
Are you seeing a big uptick now with that integration being in existence that more will be wanting and able to take advantage of your service?
I think, we just started, so it'll take a while to see that. In Heroku, Heroku changed our self-onboarding channel. Smaller customers are mainly from Heroku. Actually, it really did a huge impact. It's really had done a huge impact on Coralogix. AWS, we're looking at larger clients that don't want to register a small vendor or don't want to go through procurement. And then using us with AWS, with the AWS quality stamp is something that really boosts our ability to approach larger clients. And, naturally the sales cycles are longer. So I'm seeing like 4 or 5 months from now we'll be smarter, but we have a lot of hopes in that.
It's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of that, making an integration with AWS or another partnership that already has large enterprises. That's like actually an easier into those organizations than if you have to build a relationship one-on-one already. Is that correct? Did I get that correct?
Yeah. So let's say Heroku was actually an interesting example for that. For one of the things that we've done, we've created an integration with the version delivery pipeline. So whenever you deploy a new version, it creates a tag in Coralogix, and we'll give you an automatic benchmark of the new version deployment quality. So it was very hard for us to get feedback on that because it was an integration and a new feature, and you want to educate the market, and being a small company is extremely hard to do so. So what we've done is that we've baked that into the Heroku integration in a way that wouldn't allow you to do it otherwise. Like whenever you integrate with the Heroku add-on, it immediately integrates itself with your Heroku pipelines, and whenever you deploy, you get a tag, and everything is automatically done. And that created the initial 100 customers using the pipelines feature. And then we had people to talk to, we had feedback, we had reviews, we had success stories. And then from there it was very easy to spread through different types of customers, different sizes of customers. And today I think over 80% of Coralogix customers use that feature. So the ability to really use a channel like Heroku that has a single-click integration to push a feature that was not that commonly used or known really helped us. So in AWS, we're looking to do the same with security. So we've created a security offering around the AWS environments, around CloudTrail, VPC Flow Log, and even a one-click deployment intrusion detection system for cloud environments. So again, 3-4 months from now, we'll know better, but it looks very promising.
That's awesome. So obviously the space is always changing and things are always evolving. So how are you innovating? Where do you go for the latest news on tech and just making sure you're staying on the latest and the greatest?
Me personally, me.
Yep.
So one of the things that I've done actually about 3 years ago, and it's proven itself to be extremely important, and it's a good advice that I'll give any founder of startup. We've created a group of fellow CEOs that run companies around our type of company, around what we call B2D, business to developers. So we've created a group of what we call B2D CEOs. We're 6 people from great companies, and we get together every few weeks. So we always chat, phone calls and conversations around things that we're contemplating on and stuff. But we get together, the 6 of us, every few weeks, and everyone, bring new ideas, things that works for them, industry trends that they're seeing, customers that they're meeting and have needs around other companies' areas. And it's also, a great group for you to vent. Being a CEO is a very lonely job, and industry is tough. So for us, it's a great way to share ideas.
How long have you had this group? In fact, this sounds like a mastermind type of group.
Almost 3 years now. And it's amazing to see, how companies have grown during that time. We were tiny companies when we started. We used to meet and talk about how do we make our first, revenue whatsoever. How do we get a company to sign up? The initial conversations were like, what are you guys using to build your website, the commercial website? It was like, and now when we're meeting, it's like, how do we scale to tens of millions of dollars? What VCs we should approach for our B rounds? Where are you guys looking to hire in terms of VPs and so on? So it's really nice to see how the companies in that group scale. One app was actually acquired a couple months ago, which was also a very happy event. Yeah, and being in Israel, it was very hard to find companies working on monitoring and data analytics because it's like half the companies here. But you can always find a couple of founders doing a company in your area. And most of the time they have much more data to share than any, online source. So I believe in human touch. And I believe that whatever you read or listen in podcasts is great. But if you don't have anyone to share that with and really, nurture those ideas and give different perspectives to them, it's useless.
That's a powerful example and tool to have a mastermind, a group of people. And I appreciate your importance that you put on face-to-face talking, sharing examples and experience together. Any tips on how to form that? Did you just know these other folks? Did you use a site to connect with them?
So actually, I wouldn't, I'd love to say that it was like I had an idea to create that group. And I started researching and I created it. It wasn't like that. We're like two people talking. Someone, connected us. We had a very good click. I can mention a few of the companies. One of them, actually two got acquired, which is pretty awesome. So one of them was testing.io. One of them was Rollout. One of them was SafeDK. So someone connected me with the CEO of Testing.io. He was, we got along really well from the get-go. We had a lot of similar challenges, both in funding and building the teams and everything. And of course, how we build a product and market it. So we started meeting, and then he said that he heard something from the CEO that he really likes, and he had a great idea. And then the three of us met, and he knew someone, so he invited her to join. And then someone heard that the four of us met, so he wanted to join too. And then we created this group, and then we said, let's start getting together. Then we created a WhatsApp group so that we can communicate on a daily basis, and people can, ask questions and get fast answers. And then people inside the group started meeting, in between to get to know, to drill down into things that were brought up in the group meeting, if it's related to just two or three other companies. So basically branches from that group into separate conversations. And, besides being able to learn and vent, you also get a lot of very good connections to customers, to VCs. I think I was the reference call for at least 5 VCs for companies. And, I'm the best reference call you can get because I really know the company, the industry, and the guy you're investing in. So it was an objective reference call, but for them, it was someone who really knew them and really wanted them to succeed. So it's a good reference to put.
That's powerful. And it's interesting to know that it was pretty organic, how it grew just from the connections, one person to the next. And speaking of, though, other ways of learning, you mentioned it. The best way, is in person and face-to-face experience from others. But audiobooks, books, podcasts, any that you can recommend that you're listening to or reading right now?
So I usually read books that are outside my, day-to-day work, because you run into so many customers and so many challenges, so many technical challenges that you constantly find yourself reading and learning technical stuff and things that are related to your day-to-day. So I'm trying to, open my mind to new things. I read a lot of management books. Some of them are pretty old, but great. There's the Pitt Riley management book that he wrote about how he managed the Lakers team in the 80s.
Nice.
Great. I'd recommend. I'm now finishing Predictable Revenue by Aaron Ross, the guy who built the demand gen for Salesforce. Wonderful book, but these are not like my main focus. They're just they're enriching me in other areas that I'm not doing on my day-to-day. Something that I do is whenever I meet a company and I'm doing, a lot of sales and I meet a lot of DevOps, the people that I actually sell to, whenever I meet someone that is interesting, I'm usually reaching out outside the meeting context and saying, hey, let's get together for a coffee. And I'd love to hear your perspective. I guess like 4 out of the latest 5 main features came from conversations just like this.
Wow. That's awesome. That's powerful. So going forward, as you're always innovating, whether with your mastermind group or your reading, where do you see your company in 5 years from now?
Yeah, that's a good point. So about 6-7 months ago, we got an acquisition offer that made me think about this question exactly. It forced me to think. These are things that you're so into the daily routines and all. So the hardest thing is to lift your head and look for the future. But when you get an acquisition offer, it forces you to think whether you're in it for, quick cash, whether you think it can be a huge business or not, whether you think it could blend into a different, bigger company or not. And obviously I'm here, we're not acquired. We decided to take another funding round. So our perspective is that Coralogix is set to be a very big company. We see the market evolving extremely fast. And the way we see Coralogix, we want to expand into different markets over not just the DevOps market. I mentioned the security product. We're going into more and more capabilities that are outside the specific management of production, but relate to the entire management of your cloud environment. Looking at, a big company, doing a couple more rounds and then increasing specifically engineering and also building something more predictable or more scalable in terms of sales. Because currently companies selling in a few millions, everything is done inbound. We don't have salespeople at all. Everything is done, word to mouth or from the channels that we have integrated with.
Not quick cash. That is not your goal. You've got a grand vision. I love it.
Yeah.
You see where you could play and that it really can grow. And I can see. So you've already named a few. I'm imagining what hurdles are you going to have to overcome in order to realize this vision? One, you mentioned maybe sales. Is that one piece? What other hurdles do you see?
Yeah, I think if to put it in one big, headline is scaling company and building processes. So the biggest challenge, once you find the market fit, once you find that you have the right product sold to the right people, willing to pay good cash for that product, experiencing good, getting good experiences and are vouching for your product and everything. So you have something that you can sell, and now you need to scale that. And the only thing, that's preventing you from becoming a big company is basically you. The market is there, the product is there, the need is there. Now it's about you building the scale of the company, building a new hierarchy for the company, and turning a lot of things that you do by instinct or from your experience, turning them into processes that everyone can step into. So you want to build a big company where whichever guy you hire for whichever role you hire, he has a very straight process that he knows that he needs to follow to reach the company's goals. And more than that, you want to know that you can measure people because you have a strict process and you have enough checkpoints to understand if someone is doing his job properly and for him to understand if he's doing his job properly. So currently, the main challenge is that a lot of things are done by instinct. And the company is still relatively small. We're 25 people. Okay. The revenue per person is very high in the company, but these are not things that you measure in these sizes. You actually want to scale the company as fast as you can.
So being able to, as you grow, provide each new hire clear definition of this is your role and they can understand their benchmark to it so that it's not just done by instinct because you yourself know what to do, but you can hire. You see that as the hurdle to overcome in order to scale.
Yeah, it's hiring, which is always, super tough. And then building the right processes for the right people that you hire. So they know what to expect from them, and they know how to follow your steps and actually do a good job.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for sharing your insight. Where can people go to learn more, and what's kind of the next step that you'd recommend?
So, Coralogix.com to learn a little more about Coralogix. There's a very nice post that I've written about our company's turnover. So 3 years after we founded the company, we were at zero revenue. And basically all the growth that we've experienced is the past couple of years. There's a blog post I wrote about it on Medium called Out of the Grave and Into 50x MRR in 10 months. Definitely recommend to read that. I've mentioned a few lessons that we've learned along the way. And if you like tech blogs, then if you go to Coralogix blog, you'll see a bunch of posts about Elasticsearch, Kafka, data streaming, indexing and parsing, and also how to do proper monitoring. So obviously, if you're a DevOps, I think you'll find a lot of interesting content there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Ariel. Appreciate it.
It was great, Alex, and good speaking to you, man. Have a good day.
Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to UpTechReport.com and let us know.